Hello and welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Rob and this is 2025, the 5th year of the PS5 era, a generation with an ever-expanding offering of must-play titles, which is why we're updating our annual list of the very best the console has to offer in this, our pick of the top 10 games on PlayStation 5. In putting the list together, we've tried to focus on games released in the PS5 era, so no PS4 games with subsequent PS5 releases, while covering as many genre bases as possible. Above all, we've tried to ask the question, if you were totally new to PlayStation, what are the 10 essential games you must play on PS5? Here are our choices. To kick things off, we have Astro Bot, the timeless, celebratory 3D platformer that hoovered up 2024 Game of the Year awards like sparkly in-game collectibles. Building on the success of Team Asobi's wonderful work on Astro's Playroom and Astro Bot Rescue Mission, this is the studio's diminutive star stepping fully into the spotlight. A sweeping, endlessly inventive adventure which has our teeny hero collecting all the parts of the PS5 mothership after an attack by the big green Nebulax. Astro Bot has a level of care and polish that feels like a love letter to gaming itself. DualSense feedback has been carefully calibrated to immerse players in this delightfully tactile world, one full of ratcheting springs and squeezable sponges of assorted textures and touch. The game seethes with joyful design, packed with playful details showcasing an endless affection for the world of PlayStation, not least in the form of the 300 plus rescuable bots that recreate and reference games and characters drawn from the storied history of the brand. It is dazzling, and we've not even talked about the platforming worlds themselves, or the irresistibly catchy music, or the breathlessly varied power-ups, or the adorable costumes, or the challenge of the speedrun levels. Astro Bot is a treasure, a precious showcase of gaming that just wants everyone to have the best time possible, and you will. When It Takes Two came out back in 2021, it seemed like it would be difficult to top as a co-op experience. Hazelight director Joseph Fares, it seemed, had figured out the secret sauce, and it was difficult to see where this specialist genre could go next. Enter Split Fiction. The game focuses on two aspiring writers, Zoe and Mio, experiencing a glitch in a fancy VR publishing machine that forces them to inhabit each other's story ideas. It's a genius premise that means you get to play through fantasy and sci-fi themed levels, as well as some of the more unhinged ideas that the characters have left unfinished, not only allowing the game to switch between contrasting genres, but giving it a freedom to offer up joyfully random quick cuts of abstract gaming. How abstract? Think flying pig powered by farts that voluntarily turns itself into a hot dog. For all the ideas on display in Split Fiction, it's the simple, wonderfully handled core that makes it essential. The game's puzzle platforming is on another level, polished, inventive, varied and luxurious feeling, demanding that players communicate effectively to overcome devious obstacles, and that real-world teamwork seeps into the story of our bickering authors learning to fight greedy authority, giving the whole experience a surprisingly weighty, emotional edge. Simply put, this is the very best of split-screen co-op gaming. Accessible but sophisticated, indie by attitude but blockbuster by production value, and relentlessly good fun. Stone cold guaranteed to be a winner for newbies and veteran gamers alike. Given it's one of the best stories ever told in gaming and that it's a multi-award winning TV show, we'd be very surprised if you haven't at least heard of The Last of Us. But if not, then pour yourself a glass and drink it in. It's a full-bodied game with apocalyptic visuals and undertones of emotional trauma, the futility of cyclical violence, and mushrooms. And yes, we thought long and hard about putting The Last of Us on this list with our no re-releases rule, but were swayed partly because Part 1 is a full remake, but mostly because this package of both games in their most comprehensive form is the definition of essential gaming. The Last of Us Complete Edition offers both parts 1 and 2 of this heart-wrenching tale in pristine 4K with the full heft of the PS5 behind them. Part 1 is the story of the still-grieving father Joel escorting rebellious young survivor Ellie through what remains of civilization in an attempt to find an infection-ending cure. Part 2 picks up 4 years later, focusing on the strained relationship between Joel and a now adult Ellie, which opens out into a savagely dark exploration of revenge. There's a seamlessness and a craft to this combined package, both games looking at their extraordinary best, with quality of life updates brought to Part 1 to make it consistent, controls and gameplay wise, with Part 2. There's also the left behind DLC, audio commentary and lost levels from Part 2, and no return for endless roguelike runs that test your combat capability. But nothing touches the astonishing effect of the games themselves, raw and beautiful storytelling in a ludicrously detailed world, held together with meticulous, brutal, breath-holding gameplay. Further world-ending stakes make our list next, with God of War Ragnarok continuing the story of Kratos and Atreus as they face the impending end of life as they know it. Ragnarok is coming, bringing with it the wrath of Asgard as the realms prepare for the battle to end all battles. Yet again, Kratos is faced with the weight of war on his expertly carved pauldrons, braving the 9 realms to find legendary weapons, make mythological allies, and naturally not lose his rag whilst adventuring with his surly teenage son. For all the praise we've heaped on Ragnarok previously here at Access, I think it's impossible to understand its power without playing for yourself. The ingredients are all there, satisfying crunchy combat and incredible storytelling are a given, but it's the measure and performance that really makes this something special. That the free Valhalla DLC offers even more God of War bang for your hack silver, where you explore Kratos' dark past in Greece and his perceptions of the Norse realms he's explored so far, is just the cherry on top. From stoic heroes to very romanceable heroes then, it's Baldur's Gate 3. That was a bad segue, but I'm powering through anyway. This masterpiece of a fantasy RPG is all the euphoria, heartbreak and mania of classic tabletop gaming in a vibrant slice of Dungeons and Dragons, complete with spectators, owlbears and unhinged genie cheesemancers, as all good tabletop quests should be. Baldur's Gate 3 is a triumph of crafting your own personal story, with every conversation led by your decisions and subsequent dice rolls. Whether you smash your way through goblin hordes or charm them to your side, all comes down to the D20, but you can manipulate your chances with plenty of fun modifiers along the way. Become a smooth-talking barbarian out to charm all your enemies, or a surface-dwelling drow far from the embrace of Lolth, out to squash a wily tadpole wriggling around your brain, destined to turn you into a squid-faced tyrant. The beauty of Baldur's Gate 3 is that it's so many experiences in one. Mostly a Shadowheart dating sim if you're me, but there's other good stuff in there as well, I promise. If you're looking for realism in your games, then Gran Turismo 7's painstakingly detailed real driving simulator is about as close as you can get. You can practically smell the expensive Ferrari leather as you admire fancy cars in your dream garage, or work on transforming beaters into lean, mean racing machines, though I'd be less inclined to sniff whatever's been going on in those seats, to be fair. Uncompromising in its approach to immersion, Gran Turismo 7 is a joy to look at, from the tiny drops of rain dynamically moving across your windshield in races, to the shiny ray-traced road reflections in the rims of your tyres, as well as being totally fluid when you're whipping across racetracks. Travel across the world to become a champion and find your line in neck-and-neck showdowns, or focus on photography and design for gorgeous personalised creations. My favourite way to play this game is to get up close and personal in VR though. I am not a car person, but this really threatens to make me one every time I hop behind the wheel. I'd ask for a drumroll, but From Software's Goliath of a fantasy RPG, Elden Ring, loads up with one by default. Pretty fitting, considering every trip to the Lands Between is such a mind-blowing event. Here, you are the Tarnished, out to find the titular Elden Ring by defeating gigantic, impossible enemies, and plenty of small ones too, actually, with your trusty spirit steed, Torrent. From T-Rex dogs lurking in the Red Barrens of Caelid to mighty dragons swooping down out of nowhere, every battle is intense, grand, and not easily forgotten. What makes Elden Ring so different from other From Software titles, though, is its open world. Rather than following a linear path until you get stuck and need to grind to level up, you can instead head to another biome to get your head kicked in by new beasties instead. What a treat. Caves, dungeons, castles, manors, volcanic wastelands, sprawling cities, all peppered with battles and secrets to be found in the most unexpected of places. I mean, just look at how gorgeous this whole underground city is. Oh! From Software's Demon Souls also debuted with the PS5, and Bluepoint's gorgeous remake deserves a shout out here, but we just want to give Elden Ring a moment to shine like the beautiful Erd tree leaf it is. A very different experience for our next pick. Helldivers 2 obviously values fun. Its barrage of Starship Troopers-style messaging extolling the virtues of Super Earth, managed democracy, and dying while blowing things up makes that very clear. But underneath all the saluting and shouting is a challenging, carefully tweaked co-op shooter that requires proper coordination, proper tactics to survive. Stratagems enable players to cool down power-ups, weapons, supplies, massive orbital strikes using simple codes. The thonk of incoming ordnance is undeniably badass, but the first time you're forced to input a code under pressure from an approaching bug horde, the hook of Helldivers 2 becomes clear. You need all this hardware because the game is tough, grounded in just enough ways to give combat a lethal edge. Friendly fire is difficult to avoid in the chaos of war. Aiming is wayward unless you stand your ground as enemies approach, and those enemies move just as fast as you do. Once you're overwhelmed, it's difficult to recover. As difficulty ramps, only teamwork and advanced loadouts give you any hope against overwhelming numbers of bugs, automatons, and the insidious Illuminate, building the foundations for something truly special. Frantic tactics thrashed out with friends, glorious victories, inevitable recriminations, and the tireless drama of fending off hordes while desperately waiting for your dropship to arrive. The word masterpiece gets chucked about too liberally these days, but in the case of Death Stranding 2 on the beach, it's entirely appropriate. This is Hideo Kojima and his team at their creative peak, a more mature and tempered experience than the exuberance of the Metal Gear series, but packing enough soul and cinematic flair it would have Sam Porter Bridges teetering under the strain. There's a pared-back beauty to the sights and sounds of Death Stranding 2's sci-fi post-apocalypse that cradle you into an almost trance-like state of reflection as you traverse its otherworldly landscapes. You'll meditate on the game's themes of loss, absence, grief, and oh, a landslide has happened, and now you're fighting off armies of bandits, mechs, and paranormal spectres with a suite of gadgets that would make James Bond blush. Death Stranding 2 revels in its gaminess too, a firework display of likes, emotes, and silly hats as Kojima Productions audaciously backflips across a stage of both silliness and seriousness and somehow sticks the landing. Combine all that with one of the most heart-wrenching video game stories I've experienced in years, delivered by a cast of A-list acting talent, and you have a game that stands comfortably among the best of this entire generation. You've got to play it. Finally, the gorgeous, haunting, extraterrestrial action of Returnal rounds off our list, where you'll work to try and break Selene free of a never-ending loop on a hostile planet. Every death resets and changes Selene's path through Atropos, throwing up new encounters and arenas to battle through for her to make it to the other side. As much as frenetic combat is the shiny centre of Returnal, the layers of story that wrap around it are what make you want to come back time and time again. Why is Celine here? Where even is here? How did this time loop begin? What is the White Shadow? And most importantly, why is Celine's house on an alien planet no other human has ever landed on previously? That's a seriously dedicated moving company. Returnal is equal parts challenge and mystery then, both feeding into each other to drive you deeper into Atropos's dark history. And if you ever think you've perfected your ability to slice up alien dogs throughout the game, there's always the Tower of Sisyphus, an endless mode to really put your combat prowess to the test. And there you have it, our picks for the top 10 best PS5 games you can play right now. While our list is of course scientifically correct, opinions are like Astro's Playroom. Everybody with a PS5 has one. So please let us know your favourites down in the comments below. There's a big community out there with new members every day, and every one of your recommendations could help somebody take their first steps, or their wisest steps, into the world of PlayStation. So let's help each other out. Don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this, and make sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date about all things PlayStation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
PlayStation